Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerd Steve, and as usual, I'm joined by this nerd.
How are you doing this evening, sir? It's a
Good, good.
Monday.
I don't know if the internet dropped a little bit, but I didn't hear your introduction.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm Nerd Archist Ted. In case that part is not clear.
Yeah, or maybe it's just my ears. I don't know. A lot of years working around heavy equipment, probably not the greatest, and chemicals and fumes.
Today we're supposed to be unfurling some stuff and talking about scrolls, huh?
That is the plan, man. And of the magic item categories, scrolls is kind of like the smallest, but also the biggest if you think about it. Because you can have a scroll with various spells on it. At least you used to be able to. I don't really know if you still do or not. Remember,
Scrolls nowadays, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong out there in the chat, but like they're typically a single scroll.
yeah, remember,
I,
you used to roll on the random chart for scrolls, and it was like first you rolled to see how many spells were on the scroll, and then you rolled to see what your spell levels were, and then what classes they came from. But yeah, now it looks like it's kind of streamlined down, and also this must be things that we went over, and it's funny, but I guess part of it is because we've been playing the game so long, and
Mhm.
we've just got rules that's kind of stuck in our head.
They mesh.
Yeah, yeah, and especially when they're close to what we're kind of used to, right? So
Mhm.
I forgot that you had to make a check to put a spell in your spell book from a scroll.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure I've never made a wizard do that.
And I mean that's part and parcel of, all right, you're the DM, you're going to play it your way, and if you want to use a different rule set, then by all means. uh I haven't really pushed that boundary either, but I also am not the best at giving out scrolls. um you know
Yeah.
the actual spell scroll under magic item for D&D Beyond says a spell scroll bears the words of a single spell written in a mystical cipher. If the spell is on your class spell list, you can read the scroll and cast the spell without providing any material components. Otherwise, the scroll is unintelligible, and blah 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 from there.
All about the blah blah blah.
All about the blah blah blah. I mean, I didn't want to expand the page and
Yeah.
get into everything else, but it says that it's a single spell. Um, you know, so like that, straight out of D&D Beyond.
Now,
But
I know you have to make a check if you're trying to cast a spell that's above your level, and it's a caster check, so just your mod plus the die roll. But I completely forgot about the miss the chance to miscast a spell from a scroll, and I feel like we've definitely had opportunities for that to come up in your games. Now, I don't know if anyone missed it, but I definitely know that scrolls have been read from spells that are from levels that are higher than they were able to cast.
mhm, and that's that can be fun. The miscasting, and all of the wonkiness that kind of goes from there. Uh, New and crazy and incredible things can happen because you did something that you weren't really ready for.
Can you think of any anything from any media, whether it be novels, comics, video games, or whatever, where
So,
scrolls?
so the only scroll that I remember from anything isn't a spell scroll, but a different type. If you remember in the very beginning, or near the beginning of the Crystal Shard, that is where Brunar, unfurls the scroll and scatters the diamond dust all over Aegis Fang. And that's the thing that stood out to me the most as something that's scroll like. And here he not a wizard is using this ritual, this enchantment. So like that to me was something that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the only one I could really think of as well. And it was very impactful. It was a really cool scene in that book. And also the idea, like you said, not a wizard enchanting a magic weapon, but also like, especially in earlier editions, you know, it was always made like a big deal of, the dwarves and, ancient dwarves made the best magic weapons and armor, they're smiths, yet like none of them could cast arcane spells, right? In those editions. Yet
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they were the ones producing it, right? Like, I mean, you could be a cleric and make magic stuff, but it didn't seem to be implied that's how it was being done either, right? So here comes RA with the Crystal Shard, and like he kind of fills in a really cool way of doing it. Of course, we still don't know where that scroll came from, right? Like, it would be weird if ancient dwarves were going to like humans or elves to get these magic scrolls to enchant their creations. Unless it was maybe handed down by the dwarven gods themselves in days of yore.
So I mean, the concept of clerics enchanting things isn't too far outside the realm. So perhaps there is something, but you're right. At that point in time, that was when second edition was out, and dwarves weren't wizards. That was
No.
was a thing. Like, we got a big old red circle with a line through it. Dwarf wizard,
That was like the big deal about third edition. It's like you could play a dwarven wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you could play any class race combination. They'd finally gotten rid of that that restriction.
And that does make the change, and that does allow for, okay, well, what else is out there? But like, I looked at the concept of scrolls, and going back to D&D Beyond for a moment. Beyond a spell scroll, you've got a scroll of protection, a scroll of Tarrasque summoning, and a scroll of the comet. So beyond the typical spell scroll, those items are like pretty big, pretty powerful scenarios, things that you aren't going to have all that often come in the game. I don't think you really want the scroll of Tarrasque summoning. That might be something that you're trying to stop the enemy from using. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and also if you are the one to summon the Tarrasque, it is hostile to everything but itself, is what it says.
Yes.
I like the fact they had to clarify, and it is not hostile to itself. I'm gonna tweak that scroll like it is hostile to everything, including itself. It just is summoned with self-loathing and hatred.
And it's within a mile of you. So like, you could technically get away, but you could also possibly not if you're not careful.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to summon it way over there. Nope. I'm not going to stand on a mountain and summon it, 10 miles away to attack the town that's nearby. Nope. It's completely possible that it's going to get you.
Well, also like the other four scrolls, because there's only 5 scrolls listed on D&D Beyond. It's definitely an area where we could definitely use some more magic items. And like 2 of them are right, like spell scrolls. That's typical. We expect that. Scroll protection, like, yeah, it's a trope from the earliest of the editions, and yeah, it makes sense. Specific type of monster can't get near you, has to make a charisma save. And then you get the other 3 scrolls that are all legendary, 2 of which are in the same adventure, the Icewind and Dale one. And the comet one is like you summon a comet that creates a 50-foot deep, 500-foot radius crater on impact. That's a decent size hole, and it does
say so.
30 die 10 force damage.
That's quite a lot. But hey, you can make a dex save DC 20 to pass.
Yeah, you can, and take half damage. Unless you're a structure, you're just destroyed. So it's a castle breaker for sure. But that's average. That's average damage of 150. So it's nothing to sneeze at.
But we've also got this bizarre thing of the Nether Scroll of Azumar.
This combines a couple of different magic items into one scroll. It raises your intelligence, like the books do, right? And then it just gives you magic resistance, essentially, without calling it magic resistance. Oh, and by the way, until you die or it dies, have a stone golem buddy. Um, but I think like so you have to make an arc. It's not a guaranteed thing because you have to make an Arcana check to do it. DC
Mhm.
25. Nothing to sneeze at. I mean, you're not going to do it at super low levels. But mid levels you can get there for sure. And if you fail your save, it's 16 die 10 psychic damage. So it's almost it's like getting hit by half a meteor.
I mean, that in and of itself, is like a holy crap. This could be a, make or break moment of like, all right, you might just straight up die. Anywhere from 16 to 160 points of damage for a wizard. Like, you read that low enough, that could take you like straight to dead.
Yeah, you can't absorb elemental and psychic damage. This is not going to happen.
No.
But hey, and you can try again every 30 days. So if it doesn't kill you, you get to keep using it and trying it until it actually works.
But beyond that, like, we're not really seeing anything that fall into scrolls as magic items. So like, you've got the capability of saying, okay, well, what if you have rituals as a scroll similar to this where it's going to do something, but how about something minorly? Things that will allow you to legitimately enchant something, something that could be like a recipe. It could be you could have a scroll that allows you to actually learn languages or proficiencies. There's so many different avenues of consideration for what scrolls could possibly do. It should be able to do more than just the small simple things that we've got here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of room in the game to add to it. I love the idea of scrolls that basically in third edition you had schema that like artificers and mage rights would use to make magic items from. It's basically like the magic blueprint.
Right.
So I do like the idea of like, scrolls might be a great place to be like, oh, here's how you make a very specific magic item. And by having that, maybe it counts towards, some of the cost or expedites the process in some way, some minor benefit, but, towards allowing you to make those particular items.
I could see it in, very easily being like a tiered system, whether you want to do 3 or whether you want to do 5, that's completely up to you. But you could have without a recipe, you're just going to fumble and bumble around. Any person can sit there and try to do time wasted in figuring out whatever the process is and then finally getting to a finished product. If you have the recipe, oh, well, it's going to cost 700 gold. I need, the thing that I'm going to enchant or make, and it needs to be of a high enough caliber to receive said enchantment. And then I need to get X reagents, and I need to do it at such and such a time, whether it be of the day, of the month, of the year, of the season, whatever, based on the recipe. Doesn't give you anything beyond I can make a check once I've acquired everything. You could have another tier where it's like, oh, you have got the recipe and built within the scroll itself has some of the magic, some of the things. So therefore the reagents needed, you could skip either the gold cost or the time cost, or, some aspect of it has been removed. And you could have like a greater, this thing of like, all right, basically you unfurl the scroll, you do an 8-hour ritual, whatever it takes, but everything is composed within the scroll itself. You don't need to go find the reagents. You don't need to worry about anything. You read it, you do it, and voila, your sword is now magic. Um, so that's the thought pattern that I've been kicking around with when we started saying let's talk about scrolls, and I'm like, all right, I think this needs to be a step by step thing.
So you want to make the Battleheimer scroll?
Basically, I mean, he did use like he did it at night because I think that was a part of it. Um, and then he used diamond dust because I remember him throwing the diamond dust into the air, and him checking, and that every single drop of dust fell onto the hammer. Nothing was wasted.
Yeah.
So he used the one that's in the middle.
Nice. Yeah, I do. I like that idea. And I also like the idea of having a version where you don't actually have to be a caster to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say though, like you'd probably, I do like the idea that you have to have a receptacle that's worthy to receive the enchantment, though.
I would say that makes a lot of sense. I mean, nobody wants to turn the rusty hammer that's pitted and nasty into an amazing work of art. It's like, all right, it looks like crud. Why would this work? But then again, some people might
That's how you get cursed magic items.
I mean, maybe.
But beyond that too, like also curses with, or not curses, but scrolls with rituals in them make for great plot devices as well. Like even two of the ones that we mentioned, one summoning a Tarrasque, like that's straight up a plot hook. Like let's not have the Tarrasque get summoned. That's probably bad. And the other one is like, maybe they're planning an attack someplace, like a temple or a castle, and like even if everyone doesn't die, everyone's probably going to die. It's going to totally obliterate the structure and this place of significance.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're talking about Comet or whether you're talking about the Tarrasque, destruction is imminent. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So CF, would this count as receiving another major spellbook, saving on cast to copy in your own book? So scrolls, you have to make a check, but once you do, it just goes into your book at no cost. But a spell book is then you follow the rules for adding spells to your book, and they cost the time and the GP. So the benefit of scrolls is that as long as it's a spell that you are capable of casting and you make that check, then you don't, you get it into your book much faster and much cheaper. The downside is you don't have access to that spell to throw out there during your adventuring. So that is my interpretation. As long as I didn't jumble rules again in my head.
And as we were kind of talking about earlier, is that's one of those things that tends to happen when we've played through so many editions. So.
Yeah. So I do like the idea of coming up with scrolls and maybe using them as like minor boons, or maybe like replicating effects from like wondrous items and stuff, but like it's a set duration. It's kind of more like a potion. Like, maybe it kind of just gives you the ability that you would get from a wondrous item, like a Boots of Elvenkind or Cloak of Elvenkind. But maybe for an hour after you read the scroll, or whatever.
That's certainly an interesting thought pattern. So it's a magic item scroll that has a duration.
Unfortunately, CF not really, because what happens is, like, I guess the way that it's always been kind of like explained is like when you look at like the formula for a spell, you almost have to like recreate it to put it in your own book. But the benefit of getting the Wizard Spellbook is you literally can't have those spells without finding them someplace. You're, as a wizard, you only get access to 2 spells a level. So, there's a whole lot of spells you would not be able to add to your spellbook. So the benefit is not that, it's any cheaper or faster, but that you actually just get access to it. It is one of the downsides to being a wizard, but at the same time, as a wizard, if you get access to a lot of spell books, scrolls, gold, then your casting versatility as an arcane caster outstrips all the others by a lot, because they can only they generally know spells, so they only have so many. So it's like they're the in between, the bard, cleric, druid, and the like sorcerer and warlock, where they have a lot of versatility compared to those casters. But the people that prepare their spells, like the druid and the cleric, like have the ultimate versatility because they just have their whole spell list all the time. But also, though, like one might argue, like the wizard gets better spells.
The wizard does get better spells, for a lot of different things. There's a lot of versatility, a lot of exploration, and a lot of combat spells that the wizard has access to. The other advantage that I think the wizard winds up having is any ritual spell that is in their spell book, they don't need to prepare it. They can just do it as a ritual right out of their book.
Yeah.
Where a cleric or a druid wants to cast a ritual spell, they need to have that spell prepared. So like, oh, well, then they could be able to do it as a spell slot or as a ritual. But I still think that gives the wizard of like, all right, well, you know what? I'm never going to prepare, detect magic, and identify. I will always just save it until I've got 10 minutes, and then boom, I do it as a ritual, thereafter.
CF, I'm just trying to convince my DM that copying in my spellbook could be done faster and cheaper. Oh, I totally get that. As someone who's played a wizard for a very long time, the pain is real, and I totally understand your plight. For a very long time, being a wizard, if you're in a game that there's not a lot of gold in, it's very rough because you need, as a wizard, you need gold, and you also need access. And lack of either one of those things just kind of shuts down the versatility part of being a wizard. I had to grumble at Ted a couple of times.
It's true. Now I will say that I've never played a wizard in a long-standing campaign. My exposure to wizards has been mostly one-shots, or maybe in small arcs. Nate the Nerdarch, the dude who used to be here occasionally with us. He's got far more experience with wizards throughout many different editions of the game, because that's kind of his go-to. Whereas like me, I'm like, nah, I'm more the cleric. I'll take the armor and protection from the gods, and not have to worry about having to choose spells. I'll just choose the spells for the day, and I can pick them again tomorrow.
Actually, there haven't been many wizards in our home games.
Not really.
I mean, we've played a bunch. We've been like, this group has been meeting for 2 to 3 times a month for the past, like, I don't know, 7 years. And I think I was the only one to really main a wizard.
As a main, yes. Kurt has somebody who dabbled in wizard, but I mean, I think he's just there for shield.
Yeah, it took like a level or 2. That doesn't count. He doesn't truly really understand the struggle of being a wizard at that point.
But I mean, it's if the bulk of your levels aren't wizard, that's not the.
Yeah.
An awful lot of love, and I don't know why. I mean, wizard, I think, has really got a lot to show. And I mean, if you are watching this, then perhaps you've already checked out the other wizard game that I've been running. Untraditionally Arcane was or is the game I'm running. Session 5 was this past Friday, and everybody's a wizard in that game. So part and parcel of that quest is literally unlimited ink and access to the library. So and study and add spells to their spell book. So that's actually part of the game. So there is no, oh God, what do I do?
Yeah, and also too, like they all gain two spells at each level.
Hmm.
And if they all just pick different spells, they can just swap them back and
Right.
forth and trade them like baseball cards, essentially. So everybody, I don't know, what do you got? 4 players, 5 players?
It's a 5 player game. Yeah.
So if they do it right, when everybody levels, they can all gain 10 spells. They just need the time and gold.
Yeah, and again, it's built into the thing where when they get back to what's headquarters,
Yeah.
they have that. So there's no, I don't have to worry as much about the actual giving out treasure as gold, because if that's what they want to spend their gold on, they don't have to. It's the library, the council headquarters provides. So, but I mean,
Where was that headquarters when I was playing?
well, you didn't venture to that aspect.
That is
So,
true. Oh well, I had to earn my spells the old fashioned way,
well,
murdering monsters, taking their loot.
taking their loot, and it's like, oh, do I save up to add spells or do I save up for plate mail?
Well, I mean, I did put my plate mail on layaway, so
All right, so yeah, for those of you who happen to do this chat with us for many months, you might be aware that we happen to do a thing of a month. So I'm gonna happen to go into my email here and pull out my list.
you got a list. Are you checking it
List.
twice?
Nope, I just did it once. So every month we do two things here at Nerdarchy. We always give out a box full of some cool nerdy gaming stuff, as well as we do a fan game for all of you lovely people out there. We add our patrons and the people on the newsletter who double opt in. They get added to our giveaway list and to our fan game list. So I take the whole thing, I churn it all up, and I have it spin. Do this fun thing. So since it is the first of the month, I've got not only the giveaway and the fan game, but this month is the fan game with Doug, and he has already selected that it's going to be July 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's definitely some names on this list that I either know very well or have come across in the years of doing Nerdarchy. So I'm going to do the fan game first. So again, Doug is already given the list because I'm actually reading it from my sent email. He's going to email, if he has not already, the list of these people, and the first X number that get in that respond will be the ones that will get to actually play. But we've got Justin Hunter, Suicidal Burrito, Lodwick Butte, Brad, Roger Masick, Eric Smith, Sasha Lasande, Jacob K, Mark Medina, and Yannick Schneider. As always, a caveat: if I mispronounce your name, I do apologize. The different dialects and whatnot across the world there. So yeah.
And also, if Ted's internet happened to cut out while he was saying them, and your name was called, don't worry, you will get an email.
I don't know why my internet is, so cruddy today. It's like I'm the only one in the house. There's one screen open.
Yeah.
On. All right, so I've got a big box here of stuff, and I kind of had to get approval from Dave to give all of this away in one go. There's some minis in the box as well from WizKids, but I'm just going to hold up all of this. Maiden, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, both by D&D, Jetpack Sevens, Gods and Goddesses, Kobold Press's Deep Magic, From 2C Gaming, we've got the Trap Compendium, and then from Critical Hit Publications, the entire collection of the cinematic environs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 of those. This is a heavy box. I'm afraid to wonder where this is going to go, and what the shipping cost is going to be. But this is going to Jeremy Smith. And I have already sent the email and awaiting the reply from said individual. So I'm not even going to attempt to go into the big box for next month, but stay tuned for next week, because if you think this was big, we're doing a midsummer blowout. August happens to be when Dave and myself, that's when we celebrate our birthdays. So we're going to do a Christmas in the summer and do a massive giveaway there. As to what is going to be in it, and I might, kind of tease it off throughout the month, show a portion of, knowing that it's only going to be added to. We'll figure it all out as we go.
That's one big box of stuff.
Hey,
They're mocking your internet in the chat.
Oh, I am sorry.
They want you to kick the gopher and make it run faster in the wheel. Although Ted does have guinea pigs. Maybe the guinea pigs would do a better job than the gopher.
What was that about a gopher?
Well, they're saying you need to kick the gopher to make it run faster, to power your internet. And I'm like, well, maybe you've got some guinea pigs over there. So maybe
I do have guinea pigs, but I don't think the guinea pigs are going to be able to do anything. I even bought, I've got the faster internet now. I don't know why it's not going smoothly.
It's Comcast. Curse them.
No, it is what it is.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Can we get a scroll to hex Comcast? Or maybe a scroll to boost your internet?
I would rather have a scroll to boost, the signal. I'm more of a positive vibe kind of guy than...
Retribution must be distributed for this, Ted. Swear vengeance upon Comcast. and how did you take your oath of vengeance as a paladin? Well, you see, there's this internet company. And they really ticked me off one too many times. Also, they said that you have nothing going on in your house, but maybe your neighbor is downloading 20 gigs of anime. But I do know that Ted's internet is password protected. So unless they've cracked the code.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that somebody is my password, but I wouldn't see why they feel the need to download 20 gigs worth of anime while I'm supposed to be streaming to the lovely people on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of cables, I took one out mowing the lawn the other day.
That's not good.
No, and also I'm like, why was it on the ground? It was bizarre. It was flat, so it didn't look like a power line or anything. If anything, it looked like, I don't know, to me, an old phone. I don't know. So I had to knock on the neighbor's door and be like, hey, if anything stops working, I think I know why. And they're looking at it they're like, I have no idea what that's to either. And I'm like, me neither. Maybe it was the old internet lines before the fiber optics came through.
That could be a possibility.
But all that being said, why was it on the ground? It's not like I was mowing up the pole. All right.
Was it connected to anything, or was it just a loose wire that was lying there?
Dude, I think it was like it came in from the street to the pole, went to the ground. There's like a pile there that went back up the pole and went to the house. So
a shoddy workmanship, that's what that is.
Yeah, well, yeah, that, and I'm guessing it's like an old line that was replaced or something. But it was annoying because, my lawnmower did not approve of that.
Well, I imagine there's less of that wire now.
There is less of that wire. Actually, my neighbor came out. He just cut it. He was like, "Well, nothing has stopped working so far, so I guess we can just get rid of this."
That is somewhat comical. So we've got Oath versus the interwebs.
Yes.
And apparently CF is trying to guess my password. Goblin's Rule is not my password. So
jiggle the wire, turn it off and on again. Although I don't know if turning it off and on again is going to work really well while you're on the stream.
I mean, I could unplug the wire and I could go kick the thing and I could turn it off and on, but that's certainly not going to bad. And we want to end a little early, that's okay too. But I mean, we'll ride it out for as long as we can.
Yeah. It was like 2 weeks ago. I was doing a live chat, and it was like my power flashed before the storm.
Mm-hmm.
It was so weird. I'm like, what is? Are you preemptively going out? It just flashed, but it was enough to shut off my computer, right? So once my computer turned off, and then I restarted, I'm like, well, this is done, because I was able to get on my phone and talk to the guys that they were still in the call for a few minutes. Or they were still in the call because I think it just automatically switched the host to one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, nah, there's no way. It's going to take forever for my computer to reboot. So tomorrow we're doing part 2.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions in regards to scrolls or basically anything, go ahead and throw that up in the chat. I've hit all of the talking points that I have in regards to scrolls. I don't know if you've got anything else that you wish to unfurl.
Nah, I mean, the only other thing is to kind of explore, I think, is like, I think the scroll magic item is a great like plot device. It's like, it's the thing that the big bad is trying to gather the scrolls of X. And because once they have them all, they'll be able to invoke, a particular ritual, or, each of the scrolls possesses a seal on it. And once they get them all, they can break them and release, horrific thing into the world. So I think they work really, really good in that fashion as plot devices. But again, too, like, when you're looking at the game and I see several places where we can really expand. Like, there's definitely room to add a lot more scrolls to the game as magic items. And and I think they're good for doing the things that like we like to do in our games. Games are like, oh, you've been doing this thing for a while. You can learn that language, or you can learn that tool proficiency. Like these minor boons that they kind of do something, but they're not like, game breaking.
Makes sense. So Nicholas wants to know, how much would you charge for spell scrolls?
I think it'd be like similar to the potions, really, but also like it used to be a formula, and it was like the cost was based on the spell level. I mean, you could literally really just use the wizard spell cost for putting in their spell book if you wanted to. And with that idea, I suppose you're talking about them purchasing scrolls in order to kind of have access to more spell casting, as opposed to purchasing them to put in their books per se. Because then it's kind of a wash. The only thing they would really save on is the time if they were able to just like purchase the scrolls. Although maybe you offer them a deal if they buy more than one scroll at a time. But I think it's a good place to start anyway for the base.
I like to have a sliding scale. Like, you've got X per spell level, but it goes up every so often. Basically on the odds, I think, feels like it's adding a new threshold. Because
it is. I mean, you're getting a new.
No. But I mean, the difference between a second level spell and a third level spell is bigger than the difference between a first and a second.
So yeah, you feel like the odds are stronger.
So you could be like, all right, it's 50 gold for a level 1, 100 gold for a level 2. then you bump that from 50 to either 75 or 100 per spell level when you get to 3, and then you keep escalating. So it's bigger. A 9th level spell scroll should be absorbently expensive.
So also, like, some of the artificer subclasses, right? Don't they allow you to make stuff cheaper? Is that a thing still?
I think it was in the UA, but I don't remember. My artificer's not gotten that high. Some DM does not let us advance all that often.
Yeah, bastards. Yeah, maybe it's not a thing anymore. I thought maybe it was only in the UA. And I think maybe they did that with the scribe as well. Which I was going to say that might be a good model, but not if they didn't carry it over. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything. So there are things that might have got yanked out. But if you find the UA though, you can kind of look at those and kind of get an idea of how you might want to do it for your casters with scrolls, as far as, or for, like, not your casters per se, but like the NPCs that are making them. Mm-hmm. So that might like kind of also help you come up with a price point for them as well. Or you can look at creating magic items in the DMG, and then Xanathar's Guide has even more. The problem with the DMG though, it doesn't really take into account for things that are consumable versus things that are permanent. Like, it's the same cost.
Yeah, so, got a thing here of crafting your own scrolls to save you on spell slots. I mean, if you've got the ability to, as a wizard, put spells in the spell book and make scrolls, you could literally in your downtime make scrolls, either for in the pinch when you've run out of spell slots, or this is the direction I would go, those rare spells that are really useful in a pinch, but to prepare it on the off chance that this thing is going to happen, that just seems like, oh man, I really like this spell, but it never comes up.
Yeah, so you can kind of just keep it.
You've got that literally in your back pocket for when that situation does come up. So like that sounds like a really fabulous idea.
That's definitely a thing you could do. I know, like, I read it when it came out, but grabbing a spell scroll. So if you look in Xanathar's Guide under Downtime Revisited, it kind of has a chart for doing scrolls, but oh my god, it's insane. And I don't think it's a great way to save spell slots. I think it's more like what you said, in a pinch, because it's 250,000 gold pieces and 48 work weeks for a 9th level spell. So it's like you use it for one thing and one thing only, to make a wish spell.
Yeah. Does fulfill that idea of an astronomical cost. I mean, if you're talking about 100 gold pieces a level, that's only 900 gold. If it's 200, that's only 2,700 gold. Like, yeah. That's way outside the realm of anyone batting out. Yes, anyone with funds, there's no questions asked. Yes, they're going to take that.
So
for a meteor swarm or a wish, they're going to take it.
Here's the thing, right? So also just under it happens to be like the base price for selling magic items.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, half this price if it's a potion or a scroll. And the legendary is 200,000. So it'd be like 100,000, but it costs you 250,000 to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really in 5e, they really don't want you to make things.
So,
but as a GM, like, I don't know, like I might waive some of these costs too. If you can convince me with some really good things that you want to use for ink.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to write that scroll in the blood of a god, like we can get that price way down. But it's gonna take a little work.
So it's just a matter of legitimately, what are you doing to find that kind of component cost to make those things? Like, oh well, I'm using the blood of a red dragon for a fire spell. Oh well, that's going to drastically either make the spell more potent or reduce your cost or your time. Like there's so many different avenues for altering what happens when you make a spell scroll. So
and also like up to 5th level, it's like, okay, that's within the realm of possibility for player characters because they start like accumulating some wealth. Because that's like $5,000. But after, from 6th level on, the cost just jumps so much. Where you're like going to the party members. Well, what did you do with your gold? I built a thieves guild. I built a castle. Bought a small island. I made this scroll right here.
Yeah, it's just that it's not equivalent.
No, it's not. It's not easy to wizard.
I thought it wasn't easy being green.
No, I mean that's like a 2nd level spell. You can be green.
Well, that's true.
I mean, you can do it with a 1st level spell, but it's more thorough with a 2nd level spell. So I feel like it's a lot easier. But yeah, like they totally took your idea and ramped it up. Apparently, I was way under.
Great. I will be a wizard in your game.
Yeah, come all ye wizard in my game. But that being said, I also have been known to be fairly stingy with treasure, so Yeah. So like 500 gold might feel like 500,000 gold.
Yeah, I mean, there's that one campaign, and I can remember that, fondly. But
I poured all of it into that one campaign where you guys got all kinds of crazy stuff.
You don't like to give out treasure. Nobody drops crap.
Matter of fact, they take stuff when they die.
Well, the bad guy got away again. What, where's your shield? Oh, damn it. I lost another item.
It's not even that. They just get sucked into the fiery pits of hell. And before the portal closes, they just reach over and grab something from you. Every monster, their spirit animal is the withholder. They get to summon it upon their death.
So all right. So the campaign involves rust monsters, withholders, wizards that cast disintegrate,
all that,
that have an eye of disintegration.
Well, I mean, the rules are a lot more forgiving towards your gear than they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like in older editions, like if you got hit by a spell, like the damage was bad and making that save was bad. But the worst part was when the DM is like, okay, let me see your character sheet. And then they made you make a saving throw for every item you owned, magic or otherwise. And then they started crossing things off depending how you rolled. And now it's like if you have something, it's safer, and if it's magic, it pretty much nothing bad will happen to it. Not that I would 100% go back to that, but I mean, there's something that is to it as well.
I mean, it was a different style, a different caliber of game. I mean, back then, the concept of the antagonist DM was kind of a standard, and it was a survival scenario. It was always, not the battle lines you're drawn and it's me or them, but it is a thing where the game was more of a challenge, and the DM wasn't out for, hey, let's see what kind of story we can tell together and what have you. The DM presented a challenge, and they knew that bad stuff was going to happen, and they just kind of sat back. And I never really liked that style to run. So, like, I've always kind of run with more of a, all right, I want a challenge, but I want the good guys to win.
Yeah. So Nicholas wants to know why so stingy with treasure. Um, so I don't know. I don't know why. Like, I guess that's part of like the old school gamer in me, and also I'm like, well, these adventurers need a reason to adventure. If I just give them all the treasure, why would they even adventure?
The reason to an adventure is the story. They want to accomplish something, and the more they do it, the bigger the plot is.
That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Give them stuff.
You give me 1,000,000 gold pieces, I'm gonna be like, why don't you let that other guy go take care of that? I'm gonna go sleep on these gold pieces like a dragon. Rar.
All right, I see how it is.
I also like to like dole out magic items a little bit slower in the beginning because it also makes them. It always to me it made it feel like they were more special. If you aren't like, I don't know, let me see here. You have like 17 different items to choose from. But then you're in a campaign, you get that one magic dagger and like, wow, this is special. It also matters less in 5e2. Like
It does.
In earlier editions you really needed magic items. And third edition it was literally baked into the progression. And in AD&D, without certain things, your life could be really miserable as well. But also, DMs really didn't care that much, so you might have to deal with that and not have magic items.
Well, and there were classes where you literally had to, kind of tithe. You had to pay, based on your possessions. So, like, all right, you can keep that +5 Holy Avenger, but how much is that going to cost you?
Oh yeah, the Paladin was like that. You had to tithe. You just had to give up. You had to pay like 10% of everything that you made that you had gotten.
And magic items counted in that, so it was had you might not be able to keep it. It's like, can I have it on loan? I need it for this adventure.
Even the Hobbit got a shirt and a sword. Yeah, but they needed it. Although I was like, I will say, like, I like to give out more custom magic items, and I'm more likely to actually just have something of yours become enchanted than for you to find something new. I feel like that's kind of, to me anyway, it's kind of cooler when something spontaneously becomes magic due to the circumstances that kind of happened in the game.
And that aspect is always fun. And in my in the game with your aforementioned dwarven wizard, I mean, that's how you guys first encountered your first magic weapons. When you guys fought a chaos elemental, your weapons absorbed some of the essence of said creature, and voila, permanent enchantment. And then you went and turned it into some unholy abomination.
You know, it happens. It happens. I forget what I infused in it to do that, but
I I really should go back and look at the notes and figure out what actually happened there, and perhaps put that stat block out there somewhere.
although I don't believe that was the original intent, that just kind of ended up happening.
Well, you and by the time like you went through the process, I was like, okay, well, let's see what this actually winds up becoming.
Oh, that involved your Easter game, right? Where you had evil magic bunnies.
Yeah, the Alamirage, the unicorn bunnies, unibunny,
Yeah.
and you took the horn of an evil one and incorporated that into like the piton at the pommel spike.
I mean, who knew that that would be a problem?
Me,
Oh.
I think there was some kind of warning about horn of
It was like
evil
written right
creature.
on there in bold letters. Do not use. Uh, no risk, no rewards. I think it ended up working out. So like, there's like he gets a special ability if he does something and takes a penalty. That's not the only item you gave me like that too, though. You kept trying to you kept trying to turn Uthengard to the dark side. I feel like you gave me the cursed dagger that caused me to murder people.
Well, I don't know. I
Also,
think that was a random roll scenario, um, and that was all part and parcel of the plot. You had to have the dagger, and you had to have the rod in order to turn it into the spear.
and then I forget what you gave me that made me look like Dark Link.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
So
It was a few years ago. I mean, we're a year and a half into campaign 3, and campaign 2 was a full year plus with session 0. So
yeah, it's been a while. What, you don't have it all memorized?
no, like I have bits and pieces of this dude and his monstrosity and his spawn that wound up happening. But
So we're gonna be doing a newsletter on scrolls. Did you do yours already? Because I know you're
I'm
early a lot of times.
yeah, I'm done here. I might go in and touch up some extra angles based on what I talked about here, but
Did you make a magic? Did you make magic scrolls?
not this time. I've been making a lot of magic items in the last handful. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna idea thread this one.
Maybe I'll make some magic scrolls then,
Yeah, go for it.
because I have not. And I avoided making magic items in the last few because I knew you would make magic items. It seemed like a Nerdarchus Ted thing to do.
I love making magic items. So like that's why this time I chose, not to go that direction.
Yeah, I ended up going with more like plot threads and plot ideas based around the other magic items we've talked about. So this time we can switch it up. I'll write the magic items this time, and you can do the other stuff. But yeah, it keeps it fresh.
Keeps it alive, keeps it interesting. There's
Yeah.
lots of new things that are out there and lots more things to come.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a project that we're working on that could probably use some magical scrolls. So one of the few.
Indeed.
But I know you're running out of here right as soon as we get done because you're going to be doing some fireworks or something.
Yeah, I want to watch things explode.
Oh, so I guess we'll wrap this up, folks, and we'll be back tomorrow night for our game. Last week we got postponed, but we were able to do an awesome one shot run by Stephen Partridge, which was a lot of fun. That's on the channel. You can check it out if you want. And we'll be back tomorrow with Quest RPG for our Ingest Quest, kind of like almost like Spelljammer, but different. And until next time, stay nerdy.